that for a week or so, discuss that in detail. And it's hosted at the same time every day. Different experts come and talk about sometimes, their own unique knowledge, expertise on certain matters. And this week, we've been talking about resilience and how challenging situations, difficulties in life can lead us towards growth. So today is the last day of resilience, and we'll be exploring how do we move from recovery to growth. So when there's been an adversity, how do we recover from it, and how that recovery can become our foundation for greater resilience, greater wisdom, and purpose. So that's what the topic for today is. And we have last few days we've seen how we can regulate our nervous system, what is the meaning of resilience, and also what some understanding about adversity, what it does to us, how the body keeps the score, how the body heals. But today is more about meaning and post adversity growth. So before we get on to that, I just request you to maybe spend a few minutes really arriving into today's session. So if you're able today, sitting straight and comfortably, closing your eyes, just connecting to your breath to feel yourself more present here. And staying with the breath, just noticing how it is today, what's the quality of your breath. And asking yourself, how do I feel today? How do I feel today? How am I feeling about myself? How am I feeling about myself? No judgment for how we feel, just making note, becoming aware. How am I feeling about perhaps some chores that I have to do today? How do I feel about maybe some tasks I need to do today? How do I feel about my body? How do I feel about my body? No judgment again. Is there anything I've been carrying emotionally that I haven't acknowledged? How am I feeling about my energy today? How am I feeling about my energy today? how am I feeling about the future today? And then setting an intention for yourself, time together for your day. And then just one more time, taking awareness back to the breath, perhaps taking 3 deep breaths, and then slowly and gently you can open your eyes. Now, as I said, we are talking about resilience. Resilience is not really where, the journey ends. It doesn't end with I got through it, because there is a lot that happens after we survive a difficult experience. Now, recovery is from an adversity, from a challenge. It's an active process. It's something we participate in. So say there is stress for the body. Now the body naturally wants to heal after stress, but it also needs the right conditions. So say it needs to sleep more, it needs to nurture itself with food, it needs to rest, it needs some movement, supportive relationships, and all of these contribute to recovery. So even when say we go through a difficult time, a challenging situation, we need to listen to our needs, and by say suppressing our emotions, or by staying intentionally constantly busy, or even expecting ourselves to just get over it, we can interrupt that natural recovery process. So, like we know and we understand this with the body. We have an injury, we sprain the ankle. We know that it's going to take time, and that we need to support it with the rest, rehabilitation, nutrition, gradual movement. Psychological recovery also takes, it works in a very similar way. It needs time, it needs our attention, it needs care. And it also can look different for everyone, because we could think that it follows, a straight linear line, but it doesn't, because some days we can feel strong, some days we can also feel like we've gone backwards. But that's just how recovery works. uh, Emotions can come in waves, and even confidence, something like our own confidence can shake on different days. We don't feel as good on every single day. So when we stop expecting a straight line for us to recover from something, then we can be less frightened by temporary setbacks. And it can scare us sometimes when say we worked hard, we've recovered from say anxiety, or we've been under a lot of stress, and that phase is over, and we know that it's taken a lot for us to get through it. um the moment we start say feeling anxious again, or some similar symptoms appear, it can really scare us, and we could start thinking that I am going back to that dark place again. But we should know that at times those things can surface again. We can still sometimes get engulfed, by difficult feelings, thoughts, and reassure ourselves that, as we have done in the past, we can overcome this as well. And sometimes we can have bad days. Now, um, what can help us recover? So we can say sort of organize it into 4 kinds of brackets. Safety can help us recover. So both physical safety, emotional safety. We recover best when we don't constantly feel under threat, right? So anything that makes us feel like we are, we can be at ease. And how do we do that? We do that, say, by purposefully allowing the body to rest, creating a sense of safety for the nervous system, maybe deep breathing, maybe lying down with your legs up the wall, so that the breath becomes deeper, body is more at rest, and the mind can start to believe that everything is okay, it is safe, and it can be at ease. Now, the second bracket is of connection. So, recovery happens um, more efficiently when we have connection, because humans can regulate each other. When we feel like there's someone who can genuinely listen to us without judging us or wanting to fix us, wanting to tell us what is right and what is wrong, that can itself be deeply healing. And so much research, it consistently shows that supportive relationships are actually um, the strongest predictors of resilience. So the network of people that we build, whether it's family, it's friends, it's guides, mentors, teachers, whoever it is, you know, um, having people around whom we can feel like we can rely on, or who we can feel like we don't have to change ourselves for, we can just be, we will be understood. That can really fasten recovery. Another bracket or pillar, say, of recovery is self compassion. Now, a lot of us can speak to ourselves in ways that we would never speak to someone we love. And I recently had, this girl um, coming in for therapy, and she was a cancer survivor and she had lost a lot of hair. And she was going on saying, I just don't like looking at myself in the mirror, and I used to be so different. And you want to see pictures of me when I had more hair, and just see how beautiful my hair was, how great it looked. But look at me now. I don't like wearing a cap, and I feel conscious. And she was, the way she was talking about herself was just feeling like it was. I was feeling, that it's not the right way really to speak about yourself and to think about yourself like that, especially when you've gone through such a difficult time, which is, you've gone through a very difficult experience recovering from cancer. And then she was talking about, her partner. And and I asked her that instead of you, if your partner had gone through this kind of experience, would you constantly tell them that you know look at you, your hair is all gone, and look at your pictures from the past, you used to look so nice, and look at you now, and you walk in a room, everybody's seeing you. She said, I would never do that. I would hate to do it. I would never make her feel like that. And then, like, it dawned on her that, but she's been talking to herself in this way for months now. So, and she was aghast to even think that she would talk to another person like that. So we we don't we don't realize how harsh we can be to ourselves, the way we can talk to ourselves, the way we can demean ourselves, criticize ourselves. Mm, we would never dream of speaking those words to someone we love. So, so realizing that and giving ourselves the same love, the same compassion that we would give to someone else. Sometimes even saying to ourselves, this is difficult. And I know you are going through a difficult time, rather than thinking or believing or saying that there must be something wrong with me. So so I particularly feel that self-compassion is something we lose very quickly when we are going through a difficult time, because we just expect ourselves to unrealistically expect ourselves to be strong or determined or confident all the time, which perhaps is not possible. And the last, say, pillar of recovery is meaning, which we've also been talking about, which we discussed day before, that when we look at a situation and we just ask different kinds of questions, instead of asking, say, why did this happen? Why did this happen to me? Mm, when we form that question differently, maybe ask, given that it happened, what do I want to live? How do I want to live now? What do I want to do now? The way we make meaning of an experience can really change our outlook towards it. And that same suffering can start opening different kinds of doors for us. So, a little bit now upon, I'd like to speak about post traumatic growth. So, for a long time, psychologists believed that, say, there's been trauma. Now, the best possible outcome after trauma was returning to normal. That's what, for a long time, psychologists have understood about recovery from trauma, that, the best we can do is return to normal. But then researchers, they started noticing something which was unexpected. Now, some people, after having gone through trauma, um, they reported very positive psychological changes that would never have existed without their struggle. So these people, again, after coming out of, the traumatic experience, in a way, their minds had changed, their outlook had changed. So very positive psychological changes, and they described having stronger relationships. They felt greater appreciation for life, increased personal strength. They felt, new possibilities were available to them. They felt like they had deeper spirituality, deeper purpose. And became this came to be then known as post-traumatic growth. Now, it is not to say that suffering is good. And of course, when we look back at the most difficult experiences, it's not like we want to relive them. So it's not saying that. But growth can definitely happen, because some of us, the way we engage with suffering in that time can transform us. And again, this is not to say that we should again be thankful for difficult times or terrible experiences. It's not what the research is saying. We don't have to, it's not saying practice positive psychology. It's just saying that while you don't have to celebrate adversity, you don't even have to pretend that, um, I mean, you you can have something very difficult happening to you. You don't have to pretend that it was worth it. You don't even have to like what happened, but you can feel that something has changed in you, and you can decide what direction that change takes in your life. Because when we feel like that, when we feel like we can use something and help it um, to to change our outlook or to help us grow, it restores our power. It gives us some agency. Now, how do we ask these questions? So again, a common question that we all could think of when we are facing adversity is, why is this happening to me? When will this get over? Why do I have to, suffer all through my life? Why do these experiences keep happening to me? Mm, Other ways to, ask questions when we don't know what life suddenly has become, or what it's looking like in the future, is, say, who am I becoming through this? And what strength is it asking of me? How is it changing me? What skills am I able to use in these situations? And then, it's the meaning we start giving to it. It's a better understanding of ourselves that we start to develop. So again, you know, when we think of the most difficult times that perhaps we could have lived in our lives, um, and we look back and we think about them, we do feel, most of us, that we have been changed. Some of us become um, hardened, some of us become tougher, and the meaning that we derive is one of the greatest sources of resilience, because it changes our relationship with what happened. So, say, in any ways, if we have become more courageous, if we have become maybe more patient, more compassionate, then there is a takeaway from that life event, or um, there is something that has come out of it that we can use for our life going ahead, for our relationship even with ourselves going ahead. Now, another thing that I wanted to sort of speak about was that resilience is a practice. So it is not a personality trait. We can build it through repeated actions when we do small things. So each time we regulate our nervous system, we give time to our emotions so they can be processed. We seek support, we confront whatever it is. Mm, we align ourselves with our values, and we ask wiser questions. We strengthen resilience. So like a muscle, resilience develops through practice. And with that, I like you to do like a short practice. So for that, maybe you can sit comfortably with your eyes closed, and you could think about one challenge, something that could have changed you. You feel so. Thinking about what happened, what happened. What strengths did this experience ask you to develop? What strengths did this experience ask you to develop? And the last one, how has this experience shaped the purpose you're becoming, shaped the person you're becoming? How has this experience shaped the person you're becoming? And connecting with your breath. And whatever experience you thought of, you recall, giving yourself credit for how far you've come. Taking a moment to acknowledge yourself, for continuing, for showing up, for trying again. And then repeating these words silently in your mind. I have faced difficult moments before. I have found my way through them. I may not know what comes next, but I trust that I can meet it. I don't have to control everything to be okay. I can pause. I can breathe. I can choose my next step. I trust my ability to learn. I trust my ability to recover. I trust my ability to grow. Whatever comes, I will meet it with awareness. Whatever comes, I will meet it with compassion. Whatever comes, I will meet it one step at a time. And with that, extending gratitude to your body, mind, and breath. And bringing some movement into your toes and fingers. Maybe giving yourself a nice stretch. And then opening your eyes when you feel ready. Thanks for practicing today, practicing together. This week was about resilience, what it is, how we can build it. And next week, we'll be starting a new module about metacognition. It's the ability to observe our thinking as it happens. So, what are we thinking about thinking is essentially what we're going to talk about. So, see you next week. Have a good weekend. Thank you for being here. Thank you for practicing. And have a good day, good evening, wherever you are. Bye.